Plato's Allegory of the Cave. How human spiritual progress takes place. Socrates, in Book 7 of the Republic, uses an analogy that explains his theory of forms in his famous allegory of the cave. In this analogy, Socrates portrays men bound to chairs in a cave and facing a wall. Behind and above them is the mouth of the cave, in front of which people pass by. The analogy gets more complicated than that, but let us simplify the process a bit. A fire outside the cave causes the passing figures to cast shadows on the wall of the cave, so that the bound prisoners, who cannot turn to see the source of the shadows, naturally conclude that what they see is reality. Among the prisoners in the cave is one who is dissatisfied with his constraints, who so yearns for knowledge and enlightenment that he breaks free from his bonds and turns to see the source of the images. Through great effort, he scales the rough walls of the cave and discerns the source of the shadows, the figures themselves. Then he sees that the fire behind them casts the shadows on the walls. Not satisfied that he has discovered the ultimate expression of reality, he ventures forth from the cave into the sunlight, but the brightness of the sun forces him to look at the ground and shade his eyes. There, he notices the shadows of trees and other objects, which he now perceives to be reality. But, as his eyes become accustomed to the light, he is able to look up and see the objects themselves, and realize that they are a higher expression of reality than the mere shadows they cast upon the ground. Ultimately, this determined man lifts his eyes to the heavens, and beholds, above and beyond all objects, the sun itself, the source of all reality. He would need, then, to grow accustomed before he could see things in that upper world. At first it would be easiest to make out shadows, and then the images of men and things reflected in water, and later on the things themselves. After that, it would be easier to watch the heavenly bodies and the sky itself by night, looking at the light of the moon and stars, rather than the sun and the sun's light in the daytime. Last of all, he would be able to look at the sun and contemplate its nature, not as it appears when reflected in water or any alien medium, but as it is in itself in its own domain. Having attained this immensely increased level of perception about the relationship between reality and the sun, or the good, as the source of reality, this specially endowed individual, one whom Socrates calls the philosopher king, must now accomplish another difficult part of his task. Having become enlightened, and delighted with his newfound knowledge, this noble soul realizes that if he himself is to be virtuous, he must share what he has learned. He determines that he must return to the cave to assist those still imprisoned in the darkness of illusion and shadow. When he descends into the cave, his eyes have trouble becoming accustomed to the darkness with this sudden transition from bright sunlight into a world of darkness and shadow. To the prisoners in the cave, the messenger of truth, the philosopher king, seems clumsy and awkward to them, hardly a wise teacher returned to guide the others. Coming suddenly out of the sunlight, his eyes would be filled with darkness. He might be required once more to deliver his opinion on those shadows, in competition with the prisoners who had never been released, while his eyesight was still dim and unsteady, and it might take some time to become used to the darkness. They would laugh at him and say that he had gone up only to come back with his sight ruined. It was worth no one's while even to attempt the ascent. If they could lay hands on the man who was trying to set them free and lead them up, they would kill him. The allusion to the killing of the philosopher king poignantly foreshadows Socrates' own execution for his teachings, as well as the appearance, suffering and execution of the prophets of God, and the existence of a spiritual life beyond the physical one.